Tony B arrives with a bang. Tony B had a lot of promise, but unfortunately, it ended in tragedy. Some call him Blundetto, some call him Tony B, some call him Tony Uncle Al, some call him that animal, and some can't even say his name. This is the story of Tony Blundetto. Tony B ends up going to prison for over 15 years after he and Tony Soprano planned a hijacking together, but Tony Soprano was unable to make it after he passed out from a panic attack due to arguing with his mother, Olivia. But Tony B doesn't know about the panic attack. Tony Soprano told him that he was jumped by a couple of black guys. You know, the unidentified black males. Tony Blundetto tries to be a civilian.
I mean, if I got a shot at staying out and putting shit together, I should take it.
At first, when Tony B gets out of the can, he genuinely wants to stay on the straight and narrow path.
Just regular work.
Tony B's ultimate moment of irony.
Come on, listen to somebody else for a change. Tony, try it my way.
This scene in Irregular Around the Margins is ironic because of what Tony B says. Try it my way for a change. Because that's exactly the opposite of what Tony B did with Joey Peeps. Tony B passes his exam.
27-32-11.
Tony B probably still feels like an inmate being identified by a number instead of his actual name.
Blundetto.
I'm only authorized to inform you that your score meets or exceeds the required minimum for licensure.
Talk about uncinematic, huh? It felt like a complete buzzkill. The money bag of doom. On the other hand, it is pretty cinematic when you happen to find $12,000 of cash, along with drugs, in a bag that was just thrown out of a car window. Looks like it was Tony B's lucky day. Or, as Gwen would say, you're doubly blessed. You sure about that?
See, I gotta start thinking like that.
Tony B. See, I gotta start thinking like that. Narrator. But he didn't start thinking like that.
Hey, that's some beautiful soup.
I had to get it. It went with the shoes. Tapioca.
You blew the whole 12 grand?
What are you, stupid? I got 400 left.
Tony B tries to set up shop.
I think of massage kage. You know, small sauna.
Yeah, I can see it.
It sounds wonderful in theory, but in practice, it can be a real pain in the ass. Especially for someone like Tony B, with his specific circumstances and his low tolerance for frustration, at least at that moment. Tony B can't go to work, but just take a nap and sunbathe. He has to actually work. Paulie loved talking about how he was going to eat and then go home and sleep for 14 hours, and even for the other guys that had to go to their no-work jobs, they could just go and sit on a lounge chair and nap. But Tony B had to be fully up and aware. Sure enough, the regularness of life happens.
Hey, hon, I'm over at your mom's.
Great.
Roadway Express delivered 5 massage tables.
There? They had that address by mistake. I told them to deliver here.
When I think of me waiting outside that prison for you to come out, sometimes I want to vomit. I am sick! I'm evil!
When Tony B's girlfriend says I am sick, I'm evil, I think she's referring to the fact that she started dating a guy that she met online who was in prison. By the way, I love how Tony B was working for a laundry company. You know, cleaning our own dirty laundry. In that world, it's hard doing business with strangers. Tony ended up cleaning other people's dirty laundry too.
I can't sign on right now. I want to give my cousin the benefit of the doubt. You don't want us involved in this problem over here anyway.
Why don't you think about it for a bit?
Marco Polo. So Marco Polo, season 5, episode 8, is where shit really hits the fan. At the end of the episode, Tony B agrees to kill Joey Peeps at the request of Angelo and Rusty.
Tony, can you bring the camera over here and get a shot of this?
Sure, I got nothing better to do.
Between feeling ordered around by Carmela and having it rubbed in his face by Tony that his daughter's in his life, while Tony B's daughter isn't in his, Tony B really wasn't feeling very good about himself or his life. When we look at Tony S. and his daughter Meadow, and Tony B. and his daughter Kelly, whom he has no relationship with, the roles could have easily been reversed. If it had been Tony Soprano that night who showed up, with Tony B. not coming along, Tony Soprano could have ended up being the one in prison for over 15 years. Imagine how things would have turned out differently. In other words, would Kelly have been Meadow? Or would Meadow have been Kelly? If the roles were reversed? We know Kelly got straight A's, according to Meadow. Who knows?
Remember when you were a little girl what I used to call you? What do you don't remember? You would tell you don't remember?
Though in all fairness to Carmela, Tony B shouldn't have shown up to the party hours early if he hadn't told them he was going to, and he should have actually offered to help instead of just saying he was going to help but then standing around and distracting Carmela by making small talk.
Pins? From the 96 Olympics in Atlanta, it looks like.
And the roles may have been switched for AJ and Jason and Justin, too.
I love where he lives. I don't want to come back here.
In this part here with his son, where his son tells him that he never wants to come back to his house, is so heartbreaking and really, I think, a triggering point for Tony B. and his decision to take out Joey Peeps.
Hey, Tony, right? Oh, you come here too?
Tony knows that Tony B killed Joey Peeps. He couldn't deny it after Johnny Sack told him that the guy was seen limping, and guess who had a limp? Tony Blundetto. But then he actually gets rewarded for it, if you think about it. Tony gives him the casino. So even after that whole mess went down, there was still hope for Tony B. Tony had just given him the casino. He said he was going to open up the books for him. But then other shit happens. Specifically, Phil Leotardo and Billy Leotardo kill Angelo. And then shit really, really hits the fan with Tony B. Talk about army of one. I'd say Tony B would fall under that category at this point.
I knew this was gonna happen.
Why didn't you stop him?
Tony B and Angelo knew each other from back in the can, so they had a special bond, and Tony B really took it personally when Angelo was killed. So, Tony B becomes an army of one and goes after Phil and Billy and takes Billy out. After Tony kills Billy Leotardo, he basically has no choice but to run and flee because there's no way that New York would let that go. At this point, if they see him, it's a death sentence. And New York also wants Tony to give up Tony B's whereabouts. Rather than give up Tony B's whereabouts, Tony Soprano decides to take care of it himself. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this latest video on Tony Uncle Al. If you did, give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Sopranos Blueprint.